Are we visible? Can you hear us?
Hi, Christoph. Hi,
Eva.
Łukasz.
Hi.
Hi. Eva.
Hello.
Jinder, can you hear us?
We can indeed.
Amazing. So, since I'm the moderator, let me start by welcoming everyone. I hope you had a nice lunch break with loads of valuable networking and good food. Welcome to this discussion panel about the future of retail. As you already heard, this panel is powered by MIT Enterprise Forum, CEE, which is a leading global innovation platform where the world's leading corporations meet with innovative startups to develop new business models, hack innovative ideas together with startups. My name is Krzysztof Burski. I represent the Molecule Group. But now please allow me to introduce our panelist. Ewa Kraińska is a B2B financial services senior manager at Allegro, where for the last 4 years, she has been working on the growth of Allegro business. Her previous experience was product management in banking, working for such industry leaders as PKO BP, Idea, and Raiffeisen. Very warm welcome, Eva.
Thank you.
Łukasz Miczek, joining us remotely from the metaverse. No, I'm just kidding. From Warsaw. Łukasz is CEO of Perfect Data. His experience comes from 17 years in sales and marketing for such international companies as Heineken, Red Bull, and Coca-Cola. But currently, Łukasz leads Perfect Data, a startup helping brands understand consumer needs and psychological aspects of the decision-making process by using a patented technology of Perfect Data Smart Shelf. Łukasz, it's great to have you here with us today.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
And Jinder Kang, Innovation Consultancy Lead at NetGuru. Jinder is a strong advocate of the human-centered design, which helps drive businesses forward through product, service, and business strategy. He has worked with businesses on a wide variety of consumer sectors, ranging from startups to SMEs to high-profile international brands. Eva, Łukasz, Jinder, once again, welcome to the panel.
Thank you very much, Chris.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And as I think we all hope, it's great to see that we're still in a hybrid mode, but more and more people are coming to events, and I think we can say that we are saying goodbye to the pandemic, which has been with us for the last 2 years. I wanted to start by asking you, how have the last 2 years changed retail, and what are the lessons learned for the industry? Eva, maybe you could start.
I represent Allegro, the leading marketplace in Poland, and not only in Poland. So we really experienced the pandemic influence on our business. Of course, first of all, more and more customers start purchasing online. Those customers who were our customers before, but not as frequent as they become. But what is more important, we observe that new segments of customers, new like seniors, for example, people who were afraid of buying online before, didn't have a choice and started to buy, and they stay with us. So it's a great success of our marketplace that we prove those value for our consumers, for our customers. And secondly, I also represent Allegro business sector, and what we observe, and of course we work on it, is that many businesses start selling online. Those businesses that didn't treat or didn't want to try this online channel before for different reasons, but they started to sell online, and again, they stayed, and many businesses turned into buying online. Here in Poland, we have still quite small, quite little share of online shoppings between businesses in general, comparing to other countries, European countries. And what we observed that pandemic make them consider this channel as not only eligible, open 24 hours per 7 days a week, but also much cheaper and with wider selection they need.
Jinder, from your perspective, especially talking about those new customer segments that also are emerging.
So it's very similar to Eva's question, and I promise I'm not stealing your ideas. But basically, the last 2 years really accelerated the move towards digital channels. Retail has a tendency to sit and wait, especially the big incumbents in the industry. And what we saw in the last 2 years was a big move towards digital solutions. So things like virtual try-ons, click and collect, different forms of payments, all these kinds of things we've been talking about for many years in the industry, but they didn't really occur. And the last 2 years basically have forced that upon the industry. One of the things as well is a greater need now for retailers to think about the ideas of safety. So we'll probably see a greater move towards things like autonomous stores as well. So that's, in essence, I would say, not a great 2 years for everyone, but it's something that the retail industry kind of needed. It needed a boost.
And Łukasz, what's your perspective?
For the last 2 years under pandemic, I can say only about that what changed in the physical retail. So I see definitely from the shopper perspective that we would like to do shopping much quicker than before. We're not feel comfortable in the crowded environment in the store. So we'd like to get to the store, take what we have on a list, and get out as quick as possible. So we are expecting right now a little bit different way of that how goods are offering for us in the stores. So also from the other perspective, the retailers are more and more open after those 2 years for innovations in the store, which allows them to offer the shoppers those experiences. So for us, it was a good time.
Sorry. So we will touch on a number of trends and perspectives, but I think one of the most important that we should speak about is exactly the speed and the expected speed of delivery, the convenience of shopping. That's what consumers expect, and that should also be connected to the industry increasing the efficiency of logistics, also minimize the returns. And I was wondering if you could elaborate on how technology today can address this. Jinder, maybe you could take this one.
Sure. So the two elements of retail that we talked about a lot is curation and convenience, exactly as you mentioned, Chris. And what we've seen is that ability of utilizing tools such as virtual try-ons that increase the confidence of consumers in what they're going to purchase. As a return, you're looking at ideally reducing the amount of refunds and returns that come from them. It's also about smarter decisions being made by retailers. So we're seeing a lot more devices such as Internet of Things being utilized across the supply chain. So for years, and to give you guys a bit of background, I spent a lot of time in the luxury fashion industry. The focus was predominantly on the end of the value chain, on the customer experience side. But now we've seen the benefits of bringing digital transformation across that entire supply chain of retail. And we will only see it increase even more so in the future.
I will connect the question with the word that you have mentioned, Krzysztof, speed. And I think that data technology influence the speed the most. What I mean is, especially taking marketplace experience, I see that what we build, what we count for is using technology, using data to give our customers the convenience, what you mentioned, but convenience meaning the knowledge about the moment of order they can expect. I mean, when I should expect my delivery, why so late? Can I expect it in 2 hours or in 1 even hour? Not mentioning the same day delivery because it's becoming a standard after pandemic. So only data and really advanced technology can provide our customers this data, this knowledge, and very often make it a decision makers. Because this data very often convince our customers to buy at this store, not in different one. The data about the speed of delivery, for instance, and accuracy of it.
So, if I understand the challenges here right, it's all about data, and you know, the actual word here is big data, because all the optimizing works well if it's done at scale. If you have enough data to process, if you have enough also resources to implement some changes and optimize. And now on the opposite side, another trend that you can read a lot about in industry reports is customization and personalization of the experience, of the offer, and that's also said to be the future of retail. Now I'm wondering how targeting really small, narrow segments of consumers works well with this, because I'm sure it's a challenge for the bigger industry players, and yeah, how can technology address this part of the process? Eva, could you maybe also pick that up? Yes, because I'm sure
I can. Sorry, Krzysztof. Okay, I can share with you some experience, my experience from recent months, that we implemented the data into financial services. In terms of targeting, we set up a kind of propensity model that help us to target smaller groups, but with more specific content. So the output was that, like talking about the cost of marketing, for instance, the output was that we sent an email and other notifications to, as I remember correctly, 3 or 4 times smaller base, and the output was 4 times bigger volumes that we received, like CTRs and stuff. So the solution, like the tool was how to use propensity models, which means data and personalization, combining with a proper content to improve the efficiency. And I'm convinced that nowadays, the modern technology, modern retail will be based on such personalization and, of course, including marketing automation, because it's all about costs. But those 2 tools will send dozens of emails, of contents to even more, but small groups of people, and at the output, get really great efficiency.
And I can imagine the personalization here is both on the backend level, on the targeting level, but also on the level of the user experience, right?
Yeah, definitely. But if,
Gender?
of course, it's not like Krzysztof, that it's all given, but we just pick this cherry. We make really a lot of tests. We send a batch of emails with different contents. We just try and then make ABA tests, and then we end up with some hypothesis that is implemented and again tested.
That was actually part of my question. I wanted to ask Gender, how does technology address this, and how can we keep the process efficient and still work on this very personalized, customized level of addressing the consumer?
So Eva actually explained it extremely well, but the one thing I would probably add is when we talk about kind of cycles we're in retail, we had multi-channel, we're meant to be in an omni-channel retail world. We're not. A lot of people talk about it. I know Łukasz disagrees with me, but we're not that far away from where we were with multi-channel. But the idea is that we should be moving towards unified commerce. And this is where that collection, that structuring of data is so important. It will allow us to have real-time information. And for example, that can be utilized that if somebody is in a store, it should empower the store clerk, the sales associate, to provide a personalized and better service because you have better understanding of the customer. And it's also an increase in expectation now of the consumer themselves. If they don't receive an experience that's in line with their expectations, then it's a bad experience. And as these expectations continue to increase, retailers have to respond. And it's also important, because we have spoken a lot about digital, but offline retail will bounce back, especially after these last 2 years. But we'll see a slightly different move into how these physical spaces will be utilized. So we'll start to see in certain sectors like luxury fashion, hyper-physical stores make an appearance or increase in their appearance throughout the industry. When it comes to your more FMCG, we'll see a lot more emphasis on guiding people through their journeys. Because it's worth remembering for retailers, offline is still a very important channel for them. There's a lot more impulse buying that takes place offline than online.
Łukasz, what's your perspective on this?
So my perspective is focus only on the physical stores, because that's where we have some experiences. And I can say that right now the challenge is how to customize, how to personalize in the physical store is even higher than in e-commerce. So you can do that by the technology, and you have to do it if you are a retailer, especially right now, because if shoppers are more and more making purchase online, they are expecting quite the same level of service in brick and mortar stores. So you need to use the technology to let the shopper start some dialogue with the products in the place where decision is making. You can do that via multiple technologies, but all of them are based on online data. So you need to get some data right away, then use AI to give some suggestion to the client. For example, if you see that somebody curly hair is approaching, you need to offer product which is dedicated to this person, not to somebody else. And that's possible right now. This is what we are doing right now in the retail using IoT devices.
So, but I understand, even though you're focusing on brick and mortar, this predicting of consumer needs works best if it's putting together the experience online and offline. And I wanted to ask one more question to you, Łukasz, from your perspective, 10 years from now, 2030, who will be making the shopping decisions for us? Is it going to be still us, or maybe already your algorithms?
I like to believe that we will, but supported by technology. So I believe that technology is made for us, for clients, not in the opposite way. And I hope that this approach will not change in the future. So we'll see.
And from your perspective, Ginger, I also wanted to hear the blending of offline and online. Do you think this really works well already, or would you rather say that there is still a long technological way to go until the experience that the consumer gets is really accurate and there are not many challenges to address?
Interesting question. I would say that the technology is there. The technology is not being utilized in the way to make it a true unified experience for the user. It's a lot easier to differentiate your product, your brand, offline than it is online through the experiences. It's also, if we go back to the idea of hyper-physical stores, the idea that we can engage more senses of the consumer. And that's still a challenge online. But what we are seeing is some brands making an effort to try and unify these experiences a lot more. And to touch on one of the points you guys mentioned earlier, if we talk about the kind of key analytics that are required, offline and online, we look at customer analytics, so basing your targeting, marketing, your experiences, the idea of mass personalization through customer lifetime values and recency, frequency, and monetary value models that retailers always use, but also to marry them with the behaviors that are occurring from those different groups of personas that you have. So that's one way to ensure that you are structuring the data correctly. And the other side is the operational analytics in store, where a company like Łukasz could come in and help. So when we've done it, we've identified massive blind spots. We've identified patterns of use of a physical store. So there are lots of opportunities still. And retailers are starting to get to grips in an offline world in how to utilize that data to improve the customer experience, improve their performance. And also, we're hopefully going to see more use of AI and ML in being able to predict demand. Also the use of virtual try-ons to help to predict what we should be manufacturing in the first place in order to potentially help reduce the manufacturing and waste problems of sustainability in the industry.
I totally agree with you, but actually I would add just one thing. Additionally, in my opinion, is the question of, I mean, technology is there, totally agree. But the question is how much we as a consumers would like to share or how much ML, AI, we would like to use or let others to use our data, our personal data to improve our convenience. So I think this is the question that big techs and others face today. Not only whether we are enough technological mature, but also the legal side of it. And of course, security is also on the agenda.
So Eva, thank you for this. But if you could name your dream innovation, you know, we have many great minds in the audience. What should startups be chasing right now? What should startups try to improve? Let's say thinking from Allegro's point of view about the next 10, 20 years.
I love such questions. Thank you, Krzysztof. Of course, there are a lot of about it's a lot of about technology and innovations, but in my opinion, it's a great pressure on those who sell online. I will focus on online. On the marketplaces, there's a huge pressure on merchants, on sellers, to deliver a wide selection, the right selection, so the item that customers are looking for at the right price, meaning the cheapest possible. And of course, there's a huge pressure from marketplaces to increase the take rates, the success fees. So at the end of the day, the margin of the merchant is quite challenging, I would say, in nice words. So in my opinion, it would be a great effort and the next innovation stream, I would say it like this, after buy now, pay later and all these payment methods that we are already facing, in my opinion, the next innovation stream would be the merchant financing solutions. Not as like, simple credits that are already on banks' offers and fintechs' offers, because it's not enough. Merchant financing, revenue-based finance, financing the international orders, those tools and solutions that will help merchants face these challenges. I mean, lowering the cost of logistics, lowering the cost of orders, and facing these challenges that marketplace and customers are putting, and to save this margin that keeping these merchants alive. So that's my area of focus, but I really strongly encourage all fintechs not only to improve offline banking offers, because it's not that way, it's too little for us, from our merchants, but to try to really understand the challenges of online sellers and resolve their problems, their challenges.
Jinder, do you have any dream innovations that you would maybe also start working on in the next decade?
Yes, but first I have to say my dream innovation is what I think Dyson is working on, which is a robot that can clean your whole house. That sounds like a dream come true. But in the industry, there's a gap, and there's a gap for startups to come in and be brave. Incumbent players are quite slow to adapt, and one of my dream innovations is more centered around business models. There's companies like Mud Jeans, who do a subscription service for denim, for jeans. There's Save the Duck, which is centered around purpose. And I would like to see more companies like Color Zen, who remove water from the dyeing process in clothing. So an increase in sustainability and sustainable solutions across the supply chain would kind of be my dream innovations. And even looking at Sweden as an example, there's more of a movement of some retailers to share resources such as storage crates and so forth. So seeing more action in trying to solve some big problems that come out of the industry.
One buzzword that's, because we're talking about financing now, and one buzzword that wasn't mentioned by any of you, but I believe a conference these days shouldn't go on without the word Web3 being used. And I was wondering if you can already see some meaningful influence of blockchain technology on retail already.
I've seen some examples, so being able to see where your product came from, and I think Carrefour is an example of a company doing this. So seeing where the fresh produce, the milk, etc. came from is an example. But if I'm being honest with you, Chris, I'm not even sure if retail's caught up with Web 2.0. So I would like to see more effort in directly addressing real consumer problems, but still experimentation with Web 3.0. But there needs to be an order of priority here.
Because I think that you can actually say that with Web3 and maybe, touching a bit on the metaverse, we are going sort of full circle because we made people get used to buying online, not going to stores, but we still know, especially Łukasz knows, that people still want to go to the store. They like this experience, and brick and mortar will not be gone. But then some vision of the metaverse, and there are retail brands that experiment with it already, brings people back to the store in a very personalized experience, and maybe there's a chance to connect, to start selling virtual products in mortal stores and the other way.
So I'm going to jump in again. I agree. We were speaking about digital twins about a long time ago in the industry. The difference between those and the metaverse is the audience exists and it will continue to grow. So it's a great opportunity for brands to differentiate, to stay in the mind of the consumers as well. It's definitely an option for them. I'm still to be convinced that it's the first priority for some retailers, but it is definitely somewhere where they are experimenting a lot at the moment. And I think it's better to experiment right now than to miss it and come into the game too late.
If I may, to jump in.
Yes, of course.
So about that innovation you talked about before, your dream innovation, I wanted to say that there is a lot of innovations which are available right now, especially for retail, but that's not obvious that we can find them in the real store environment. There are just examples that they exist, they can support, but still the moment when we will become familiar with that technology in every single store, like with the online assistant in the store, or with the shelves which will talk to me and suggest what products should I consider to buy because I have another item in my basket. So this is still way ahead versus actual reality. So before I will think about my dream innovation, I would say that I would like to see the existing innovations, which will definitely support whole market in the real stores. So that's something. Another thing is about that metaverse you mentioned, that even in real environment, right now, there is a huge space for AR, which definitely will allow us to do the shopping in a totally different way. Till now, most of the activities in the stores, online and offline, were quite close to the price and availability. So how quick I can get my item and how can I get it for the lowest available price. But that's not all about. I think the challenge is still to address why should I buy this item, not only because of the price. More and more clients are open to change the products they are buying on the daily basis if they would knew that behind that change there will be something good. For example, I will support some local community, or I will support the new supply, the new producer who is using only natural ingredients, and so on and so on. So shoppers, not only offline but also online, are more and more curious what will be after their decision about what should I buy, why should I buy, and they are looking for those information. And for now, the big challenge is to get to get that knowledge right away. And I think that a lot of innovations dedicated for online and for offline will be dedicated to this case. I don't know what my colleagues will say about it, but I truly believe that that's the way future.
Avajinder, would you agree?
I think so. I have nothing to add. I actually agree with Łukasz wholeheartedly.
I like the idea to move those online innovations offline, and you've already inspired me, Łukasz, in some cases. But I totally agree. But I would add one thing that I found some research recently that about 30% of users shop by brand, not by store or by channel. So in my opinion, that would be a huge challenge for brands to build those communities, as you mentioned, to create the love brands trends, to convince to buy it no matter where.
I think if we go to that idea of bringing the online offline, right, as Łukasz and yourself have mentioned, one of the things we'll also be seeing in the industry is the idea of more pop-ups, right? So the idea of plug and play solutions where you can quickly set up your brand in order to stay in the mind of the consumer as well. So as you mentioned, it's true, people shop by brand more than anything else, regardless of channel. So the idea is to keep your brand and your retail shop, brand, whatever, in the mind of those consumers. And although online can work very well, targeted ads and so forth, offline is just as strong.
Jinder, I like the idea you mentioned of pop-up stores very much, because this is also, I think, a way of optimizing the cost structure by doing rather a test of how the audience responds to a physical store than setting it up for a long-term contract. And this brings me actually to the last question, because we're slowly reaching the end of our time. To a question I wanted to ask to each of you about. We spoke a lot about data, working with the new technologies like AI, and this all makes the customer experience better, more accurate, more personalized, and it's great for the consumer. But looking at it from a broader perspective, from the perspective of the environment, of making the business more environmentally friendly and sustainable, what would you say is the biggest challenge right now, as a summary of our discussion? Eva, if you could start.
Thank you, Krzysztof. I have not enough time to think, but the first thing that came up to my idea is to be, I would say, to be honest with the audience, with the customers, and sell the truth. I mean, a few days ago, I took part in the conference that the part of this conference was panel about ESG, and few of the panelists mentioned example of companies that share this, very environmental friendly sentences, but behind these sentences is nothing. I mean, it's just the claim, PR, and I think it's a huge threat of ESG nowadays. So asking about the future of ESG and what we can as a companies do to make it happen, it's to strongly believe in it and truly implement it, not only talk about it.
So I agree with Eva very strongly. There's three key kind of areas that are a concern in the industry, right? You have manufacturing, you have logistics, and then you have waste. Some people are trying to use waste as a way to trick people into customer loyalty. There's certain brands that if you return items, you get a voucher for the store. I have a difficulty in believing in the authenticity of that type of a model. But what I have seen is a large number of startups in this space now looking to tackle some of these real issues, whether it's reuse, recycle, or whether it's logistics and so forth. But what the larger retailers need to do is be transparent and be authentically open, because if they're not, they are likely to be held to account now more than ever before by the consumer. Unfortunately,
Thank you, Ginger.
sorry, one last point was, unfortunately, some won't act until their bottom line is affected. And the pressure shouldn't necessarily have to come from the consumer, but ultimately that is where it will come from.
Thank you.
That's a very wide subject, I think, the ESG and what should we do and what we are really doing now. For now, these are exactly like you mentioned, Eva. These are the words. Very rare we can see the action, but I believe that action will come. That's just a matter of time. And the question which Krzysztof gave was a little bit different for me, because it was how can we use that AI and big data for that reason. So even now, if you will be able to use the deeper layer of data, commerce data, to avoid dead stocks in the stores, that will avoid losses, that will avoid the products which need to be scrapped. So that's definitely good for environment. And this is something what technology can give. If you will have an access from the brick and mortar stores, from each shelf, you will know precisely what's going to be waste soon. But before it will happen, not after. So there are the ways which you can use to really go in line with ESG, even now. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed to see in the daily basis the examples like that. One of that is something what probably not many of us know, is that in all of the stores you can find hundreds of thousands of promotional displays, cardboard displays mostly. Nobody knows that those cardboard displays are gonna be waste after promotion, which takes 1 week. So these are millions of tons of cardboard, which is not gonna be processed again, because cardboard is not recyclable, especially cardboard with the coated cardboard. Even it's not something what you can burn in Poland. So changing the cardboard displays to metal ones, which are going to be reused for many, many years, will be a huge step for natural environment. That's just a very small example.
Or plastic credit cards into a virtual one. I really encourage it.
Exactly. So we know
Guys,
the example.
I think we could have discussed this further for another hour, list good and bad examples, but I'm afraid that we are already out of time. So I wanted to thank you, Eva, Łukasz, Ginger. Thank you very much for your sharing your knowledge, your insights, and thank you everyone for participating and being with us today. And of course, a big thank you to MIT Enterprise Forum CEE for making this session today possible. Thank you very much.